And how long have you been a farmer?
Reckon I was born a farmer. Folks say my mama was a hoe.
For being one of the oldest jokes in the world, I sure had a hard time getting that clip. You know, I always say that the word Virgo, they say comes from the word virgin. And when you break that word down, it means hoe. And so I found this yesterday. You know, they didn't want to say it here either. You could see all these old Sumerian names for all the heavens going on here. But it wasn't come time for Virgo, they just didn't want to say it. They used this Latin term. You know, they just say it's this Cassite word for the divinate agri. It's the Cassite word for the plow. You know, and the Kassites, they ruled Babylon, you know, and after the fall of Babylon, those were the rulers. So it appears they just don't want to say this Kassite word for the plow. I found a page of Virgo star lore here, Judy Volker, and it filled in a bunch of information. But this missing Virgo has been going on for a long time. Ancient Mesopotamia, you know, the middle of the river, they found it as the fond and the furrow. And in the Mul Apin, they call it Shala. And this is something I just caught. You know, in the Hebrew Bible, when it's talking about and the heavens are above, they'll use this word, and Mul would be above and the place. But the spelling of Mul in this old Sumerian language, this isn't an M, this is an N. And it's just like the Egyptian. You know, 3 N's are pronounced Mu. And possibly the same as I'm reading in the Greek and the Hebrew, when an L is followed by an A, it becomes an N, and it's the moon of Zen. Where's the moon at? The moon of Zen. It's the Mul of Sin. And they say Libra was the last constellation added, and it's because the Earth is traveling in the direction of Virgo, and so it's always expanding. It's always the biggest constellation in the sky, and they have to cut it down. You know, it used to be before they created Libra, it was just a big set of claws of the scorpion nipping at her feet. And as the sky expands there, they had to redraw the lines. And they'll say this word Virgo is coming from the word for the furrow. And they try to twist this constellation around to get a woman holding grain out of it. You know, they'll draw lines between the dots. But this is the original. This is the original Virgo. And the ancient sailor says that looks like a hoe. You know, you're looking at a pair of panties right here. You know, this is a Virgo. She's a hoe. If you've seen her on the Road Runner movie, they would label her as the Hornatosaurus. She's a regular Hornatosaurus. Adorn is where that comes from. Dressed like the whore. So if you missed the video I posted yesterday of Pitch a Bitch, this will be the second video going in this folder. And it's about 30 minutes, and I'll leave the link up here if you want to click on it now. But I read some of the beginning of the story of Genesis in Greek and Hebrew. I want to show a little more in the Latin here. You know, in every ancient study of every culture, everybody always said, you know, and the first tool that God gave man was a plow. It shows up in the oldest art. He given man the plow. But, you know, he didn't just give man the plow. He gave man the sinister plow. The left-handed plow. And that's what it says here. You'll see this sinister on the top of many of these old plaques, maybe these ancient writings. And sometimes it's the sinister smash. The smash, you know, they say is the sun. But that's not. That's where the sun spends a month at. The sham, you know, the name, and the name as, and the sinister smash. And so a smash, you know, is a month. That's a girl that you bang a month and until the rent's due. You know, when you get a new moon, the rent's due. And that's when you get a new girlfriend. The sun wakes up in a new smash. And this is the sinister smash. Ancient joke about Virgo. Same thing in the Bible in Genesis 2. You know, he done made the world, and then he made a man, and he gave him a hoe. I showed in that movie yesterday, the first chapter of Genesis in the Hebrew, it says it's a reminder, remind you. And this is where the Bible starts here. And this was the first thing it did. It paid homage to Venus and Virgo. And it plainly spells it out. The works is the Virgo. The N followed by the E is a V. It's where the Berg, work, comes from, in the Berg, the city of that work, or that bird. And it's all talking about the day of the year, the 6th day of Virgo. I pulled this Latin off and put up here and color coded the same. And this is Jerome's Latin, and this is how Google interprets it. And what it does, it just searches wherever somebody else interpreted before. And you can see, that it's forcing these words on here, trying to match the other Bibles, because everybody knows what a perfection is. And a getter, a getter done. You better put a go-getter on this job, This is a task got to be done. And, get her done. And so this is the task, a getter. It's playing on the Italians, because those are the people, this is the type of work it's talking about. It's talking about an opus. It's talking about an opera, this type of work. And so they add the O with the N, to pick on the Italians. And the ET, this is the Vav in Hebrew, and it's the K-A-I that I just replaced with the Vav. It's never pronounced key. It's just a Vav, a W-U, or an and it connects these things. And this is a casually ateria woman, W-O-M-N. And the casually ateria woman, like a cafeteria, ateria is the place to get it. The woman is, and this is casually, and it means when come its time. In come its time, ateria, a place to get. A woman is the hornet is sorum. A horn, when you have plenty, that's what you see, the old Virgo carrying the horn of plenty, time of harvest, and you blowing a horn. If you hear horns outside, your neighbor has plenty. He means for you to come to the party. The horn that was loud and bright in horum. Loud and bright. Hornatus horum. A getter perfection. And perfect is when. Perfect, I-S-W-N. Perfect is when. Perfection. And T is the sign of the time. And a getter perfection. Cali. And so Cali, it can mean casually. It's in time. And without the S, if you just read this as Cali, it means the key holder.
Are you the key master?
Not that I know of.
The cornucopia, the horn of plenty. This was first Isis holding the corn, and then became Isis with the crown, and then later Isis with the horns. And so it's, it's showing, it's the horn, the corn, and the red, horn, the red lips, bright. So it could be symboled many ways. But it seems to be a story about God's love for a hoe, the world's oldest profession. The first tool given to a man was actually given to the woman. And so you look at this plaque, it's the same shape as a tombstone, the honorary plaques that you see in the tombs in Egypt. Except the difference is up on the top in Egypt, you'll see a set of eyes up here. And it'll be red, the eye of On, the left eye, and the Or, the horns, where that comes from, to Orlok. And the eye of Ari, the right eye, the honorary. But if you should read from left to right, that's called sinister. The left side is sinister side. And so the sinister smash, that's all the, sinister is evil, an evil thing. That was sinister. That was left-handed. That was Babylon. It was right there on their coded seals, That's sinister. Pulling some sinister shit over there in Babylon. You see it, when people are being led, they're being drug in because of sin. You see it here. It's written the other way, but you could tell which way it reads by the way they're leading to the king. And this isn't the sun dish anymore. I'm not sure what that is, but whatever it is, he's being sinister. And you see he's leading a musician in. And, anytime you bring a musician in front of the judge, it's probably because he was smoking weed. He got this big bud in his hand. And he was being sinister. So you'll see this on a bunch of these old plaques and give you a better idea what it's talking about and how to read that. It was sinister. It was the hoary whore of Babylon. And they're trying to change the meaning. And it's a story about the sun, in a sinister smash. And the girl I bang for a month, and then move on. And it says, on this is where your word annuals come from, on, new, and enlil, and it comes from on, when, lie, on the place in the time when lay there, on, when, lie, annulil. And on, when, lie is in hearsage. It's like to rehearse, to go through the motions, a rehearse, or this is in hearsage. And in regals above, the kings above, the regals above, go through the steps in the kings above. On, in, where to, A-N, on, I-N, in, you are, where, and T-A, on, and where to. And the regals above, on, and where to. More ducking of ugly. More ducking, that's spell check, because you're not supposed to say fucking. More ducking of and ugly. The double A, reading first one is a Y, of the ugly. He's ugly. He's so ugly they had to put a mask on him. And the ugly added shell on a shoe. And I believe this is, the part fits on the back of a boat like a skag and holds the pivot point on the rudder, the skag, the shoe. And then they just didn't want to put this here, that this was a hoe. And a dad shall on a shoe, a shoe to chase after, to take to foot. And dad shall on a shoe, a hoe. And the hoes and some, the hoes ollie on a jizzid. The hoes ollie on a jizzid. Everything he skeeted on. And then you could tell that this is before the Hebrew Bible. And this is Israel here. And so Israel, just means of Ishara and of the scorpion. That was the first rulers of Egypt in the oldest writings, the first dynasty, the scorpion kings, Israel. L is, you don't have to speak it because it's known that the L are the above, and so it's the Ishar, that's the name of all the planets above, the L, the Israel. And so this is the story of the 12 sons of Israel, and the Shmash, the names of the sons of Israel. This is the sinister tale of it anyway. And I found this somewhere. They're saying what they believe these to mean. But yeah, they say that this is, the moon and Venus is sinister. That has the greatest pull on our tides. And you see how there's no order with these gods. They don't put them in line of days or in line of months. The names are made for use in poetry like this, to be mixed up, to make mixed up stories of the gods, to make Yales out of them. And this was ancient science. It was the science of shall on a shoe, the hose, some alia in is a jizzed. He's a some alia on in jizzed. He's the names of all of the above, all on in a gist. A name, all you above onagist. Signed Ishara, father of Israel. And so I have a difficult time making these movies because this is the first thing, if you're Virgo, the first thing you say is perfectionist, And you got to go back and change so much, and I get a perfection to the casualty when it comes time and a Tyria, the place to get. A woman is horn at a sorum, loud and bright. Compel of it cued, whose diseptum mufasum quad fesserat. To compel, a push on the back of it cued, a Q-U-E-D, and pointed out. And to compel of it pointed out, whose diseptum mufus, and the diseptum to separate of the mupus, opus is a great work. The day of the great separation, when Mesopotamian cities flood, Mesopotamian in the middle of the river. When that day comes, people go in both directions. It dissects them. It splits them in half. Of the mu, M-O-O, instead of M-U, the high water. Just making fun of it. But, it dissects them. A mo is the greatest of separations. And compel of it cued, whose diseptum mopus, and assume, and take responsibility for, and assume quad. And so this Q, sometimes you can read it as just a W, sometimes you read it as a Q. And, ends what? W-O-D, W-O-T, what? And what fesserat? What tells off? The professor up front telling, and what fesserat? The rat, what tells it off? And compel of it cued, whose diseptum mopusum, the mopusum, the diseptum, the great separation of assume, would fesserat, would tell off. And I believe this Q here, this one of them times, you can change it to evolve, as in revive it, is where they get arrested from, and diseptimo. And so it's talking about going through an octave, and go through 7. And it's like a big opera. You can see it in the words of the opus in the opera. Is with the works that they're being made in the fesserat. And revive it thy 7th, thy septum, where it separates of universe, all uni together, verse to change, of all together change, universal. Of here, what patriot. This is like fatherly, not father, but take the duties of the patriarch. Of indixit, reading as a U-V-N. Of indixit, and you see how it changed here. It's got extra I now, and this is like the diocese. It's changing positions. This is the one that's accepting the responsibilities. Diseptimos over here. And this is the one that's in issuing out the orders, and this is how you would talk to somebody of royalty or a god. This is how you would address them, thy septum. Of inadixit thy septum. It's sanctificavitilium. And so of inadixit thy septum. Of all the dicks that's been in you, Venus, you'd look like a porcupine if you didn't was sanctify them, wash that shit off. And this is where your word, certificate comes from, And in the ilium, this is where, the I-L, the second one reads the I, and that's a yom, that's a day in Hebrew. That's why when it's talking about the day, it calls it here, where it has ilium. And benedixit thy septum, of great, was on a certificate of Itilium. It's like a certificate, and of Itilium, of many, illy. That's where ill comes from, I-L-I. Anything, too much of anything makes you ill. Ilium, a lot of it. And benedixit thy septum. It's on certificate, it's certified of Itilium, of the many. And then this is just straight up Boone language here. K, and if so. You want to check and see if something is okay. K, and if so. Is that the word is to say what's okay? The K, and if so, says he ever it. C-E-S-Y, says he ever at. A bombing of her soul would crave it. A bombing of her, to taking all her guts out and filling it with a bombing fluid. A bombing of her soul would crave at dues, and paid your dues. The dues what face red. You can't help it. It's universal. It automatically happens. And she made your face red. An abomination is YN of Caesar of all. Hey, all you fellas, abomin, and of all of of her so would crave it. Does what face her at. Craves the red. So I believe I'm going to cut this off here. I'll leave the link to this folder here. And I'm going to watch that last movie again and see what was in here that I missed that I wanted to show you. But I'm starting to remember now that it wasn't even here. It was in the next several lines after 4 that got me even started looking at this. I'm going to cut this off here and watch the football game. Have a good day.